All right, welcome back, everybody, to Monday Matinee. I am Darrell Fedchak. I'm the Outdoor Adventure Coordinator for DRW, and joining me today is...
Spencer Emerson, Associate Director of Recreation and Wellness.
And today we're going to be talking about this week's movie, which is The Shawshank Redemption. I'm hoping you've seen it before. If not, it is available on Hulu. I am especially excited to talk about this movie because this has been one of my favorite movies for a long time. But guys, check this out. Spencer has never seen it before watching it for this show. So I'm super excited to find out what your thoughts were.
It was my first time watching it. The movie did come out in 1994, so I was 4 years old. My parents weren't letting me watch R-rated movies quite yet. I was like 6 that they thought I was grown up enough. But I really enjoyed it. Like, they're movies of the 90s, the storytelling, it was great. So I really enjoyed it.
I feel like the early 90s especially had a lot of really good this isn't really a biopic, but just really good character development films. What's interesting about Shawshank is that one of the cool things is that it's actually a Stephen King short story. It's based on the short story Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption, which if you've seen the film, then you know who Rita Hayworth is, and that she played a pretty big role in The Shawshank Redemption. But one of the other cool things about this is that the way this turned out with Tim Robbins plays the main character, Andy Dufresne. But the way this turned out is that role was originally offered to Tom Hanks, and he turned it down so he could do Forrest Gump.
Which is great because between those two going, and doing these movies, we got 2 of the best movies out there. Because of that decision.
Like that was the way it needed to happen too. I can't imagine it being reversed.
I can't. Run, Forrest, run,
Yeah, I can't see Tim Robbins doing it. Not that I know that the part would have gone to him, but you really can't see anybody but Tom Hanks in that role. So maybe we'll do Forrest Gump on this show eventually. That could be fun.
It's a sports movie.
Actually, it does deal with a lot of the historical things that are going on in the nation right now.
Yep.
A lot of that history repeats itself kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that'll be a good one to bring in. But
why is this one of your favorite movies?
Shawshank is one of my favorite movies. Not only because I'm a Stephen King fan, but Shawshank is one of my favorite movies because the main character, he has to overcome so much. He's imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. He ends up working within the system to get his own way and to eventually secure his own freedom. And you gotta love that struggle. You gotta love that, that tenacity to continue to the fight over. And in the movie, it's 19 years, but in the short story, it's 29 years actually. But just the ingenious of what he did from day one to start to figure out how to get himself out of this prison, and to manipulate the people around him in such a way that they either help him or he's able to work around their own rules. Like in the case of the warden, how he was able to get the warden's greed and his pride to work against him. So Andy Dufresne is one of the more cunning characters out there. And I really love to watch his thought process for how it goes. What did you think of the twist when you got to the twist ending and everything started to get explained?
So I think in it, I was catching on to things little by little. And it's mostly just, that's how I've watched movies. I've done movie chats before, and I'm always, trying to see it. But not that I knew that the twist was coming. I was just like, come on, there's got to be something. What is this? How do we do this? And when it starts all coming together with the posters and, the narration of like, oh, this is what happened. This is what you need to do. And then he was, thrown in the hole for 2 months, which you're like, well, he could have got out 2 months earlier. That would have been fun. But you really just wonder the situation and why he does certain things, because it seemed like he had a pretty decent plan. So when he called out and said, "Hey, I'm not going to talk about the money. Don't worry about it. Let me get my trial," that was, yes, he's trying to, be found innocent, but just like everyone, they're all innocent inside. So he was trying to get that done, and the twist coming out was like A plus B plus C plus D equals like a 20-year plan that worked out really good.
See, Andy Dufresne and actually Morgan Freeman's character Otis Redding, they really appeal to my personality because I have traits of those. Like Otis is known as the man who can get things. Where he's a really one of the first characters that's shown in Hollywood as a do-it-yourselfer. He's a MacGyver type, so he does whatever he can with what he has. I love those qualities in him. I love how at first he's like, this new guy, Andy, whatever. And then as Andy starts to grow in him, they not only become friends, but they become best friends. But throughout all of it, Andy never clues him in fully on the plan because he doesn't want Red to get in trouble after he leaves.
Yep.
Because what they see is, and what you can tell from the poster and stuff is that Andy does break out of prison, if you've never seen this, and that they're actually questioning Red because they know he's close to Andy, and Red's like, I don't know, I have no clue what happened, but that whole thing is to protect him. And then as you get further into once Red is released on parole, he starts realizing that Andy has dropped tons of hints to him about what to do next, and like how to meet up with him on the outside, and like how to build a better life. He's actually taking care of Red. And I love those little mystery pieces that get put together.
Yeah. I like the part of the box, like
hiding the box under the piece of volcano glass.
It looked like it was a love thing. Like, hey, this is this was from my story of how I met my wife, and it's you going, well, what could he have hidden in there? Like money back in the day? Is that what it is? But no, he's just getting him prepared and saying, hey, go check this out when you get out. And then he after he escaped, he put the note in, that's obvious, but it's the crazy part, because originally I was like, oh, he gave him money, that's cool, now I'll have enough to go down. No, it's the full list of this is what you need to do, and helps him out because, for the longest time, it was Red who's helping everyone out. Like, he's the original Cheeseburger Eddie, which is, more of that longest yard talk, but it was very interesting. And I think the only part of the movie where I was like, well, what was this for? It was when he got the harmonica, and they added a piece to the story, and then it's just like, all right, that's it.
A little bit of character development in there for Red.
At the very end, it's like, he's a musician. It's like, all right, cool.
It's something he had mentioned in passing to Andy, and Andy remembered it about him.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about this too is Andy goes to Shawshank Prison in 1939, and it's a huge love letter to the history that goes on, and how all that history still affected someone who's in prison. They actually talk about how people who went into prison in a certain time or age, once they get out, things move very fast. The character of Brooks, he's an older gentleman who eventually gets released, and then he gets a little bit of narration in there, and it's not Morgan Freeman narrating anymore, but it's Brooks, and he's saying, I can't believe they didn't even have cars like this when I went in, and he's everybody just moves so dang fast, and he's talking about the 60s, which we look back at now and go, nothing.
Yeah, because he went in what, the 1910 or something like that.
Yeah, it was the very early 1900s. So it was like,
so he's like, I saw a car. I saw one car before, and now everyone has a car.
Yeah.
And that is the amazing part. I do, when you were talking about Brooks narrating, that was the part that I really liked about this movie too, was the narration, of adding different characters and it not being just Morgan Freeman. Because Brooks has a great narration, and Andy does really well too. It's that the ability to tell a story while also visually seeing it. Not everything has to be like, here it is, like, this is what we got, your script. You know, make it really obvious. It's, here's the narration, here's what you get, what is he doing, and then you see that he's reading the letter out loud. And it's really interesting. I really like that part.
Yeah. This is up there with, I'm not actually sure how many Academy Awards this was nominated for, but this was one of those ones that really sticks with you. It's one of those movies that holds up over time. And actually, every time you watch it, I don't watch it often. I think I've only seen it maybe 3 or 4 times at this point. But every time you watch it, you find something new. One of the other things I want to talk about real quick is Andy not only escapes and helps his friends, but he leaves a legacy.
Yeah.
And not only the legacy of he's the man that brought down the warden and escaped Shawshank, but he is tenacious in his quest to build a better life, not just for himself, but for his fellow inmates. He writes a letter a day to the state senate to get funding for a better library, and then finally, I think it's after 2 years, they finally give him some money to shut him up.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, okay, well, that worked, he says, and just let's just be done.
Yeah.
Instead of saying that, he says, okay, well, that worked. Now I'll write 2 letters a day.
Yep. Well, because all they gave him was $200 in books.
Yep.
and whatnot,
but they gave in. They gave in, and he
Yep.
and proved to him, like, no, this is going to work.
Yep.
So he.
You give them an inch, they ask for a mile.
Yeah, increase that tenacity until they were able to actually knock down a few walls in the prison and create this beautiful, amazing library.
Yep.
For the prisoners that really improved their quality of life and actually helped some of them get their GEDs and kind of start preparing them for life outside once they get paroled. So I thought it was a really cool way of leaving a legacy with that.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see that side of it, because it was something that the library, all this was still part of a master plan that he didn't tell anyone. Like, there's a reason why he said, "Hey, you're getting $35,000 from your brother. This is how you set it up. I can do that for you." So he showed value in himself.
On the roof, that's right.
Yeah, so that's his first. He knew he had to take that step because he was about to get pushed off the roof, and this was his. Look at what I got. This story will get around, and it started building to where he started doing the taxes of the captain, and then everyone in the prison.
By the second year, all the guards were coming to him for his taxes.
But then I love the part where it was the opposite intramural team. I was like, oh, they said the word intramural, but again, that's when you work in intramural that you just get excited to hear a word. But he then started doing the taxes of everyone, and then that's where the warden said, "Hey, I got a project. Let's do this." And he knew eventually he'd get somewhere. Like, he had, you can't always know what's going to go on, but once he was on that roof, he won a job. And then he also won the pretty much respect of his other inmates, because he said
plans within plans. Because that one scene in the movie, they're retarring a roof. The prison gang is retarring a roof, and it's Andy Dufresne and it's Red and a bunch of their fellow prisoners. And he overhears a guard talking about, "Oh man, my brother just died and he left me this huge sum of money, but I'm not going to get to see any of it because the government's going to tax it and take it all." And he immediately just clicks into a plan and says, "Well, wait a minute. I bet you I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and not only endear myself to the guards but to the other prisoners right here." So he tells Clancy Brown, who plays the prison captain, he says, "Look, if you want to keep every cent of that money, answer me this: do you trust your wife?" He says, and he's like, "What?" And he's about to throw him off the roof, and he goes, "Well, wait, no, listen. The IRS allows you to give your wife a one-time sum of whatever, and you'll keep every cent." And so he not only gets that, but then he says, "Look, I will do all the paperwork for you if you get 3 beers apiece for each one of my coworkers. And he calls them coworkers. And I thought that was huge because I'm like, he's looking at it as coworkers, and the guards are like, no, it's prison labor. That they're not workers.
Yeah. And he doesn't say buddies. He doesn't say buddies because he knows he's not friends with them.
And he's not friends with them yet, but he's using this as his in.
Yeah.
So he's not only endearing himself to the guards to try and win a better life that way, but he's also endearing himself to the prisoners to kind of to gain support that way. So if one thing doesn't work, he's got the other one as a backup. I always thought that was really cool. How he was able to do that with one single sentence. He was able to just boom, totally set this entire plan into motion.
Well, then it all connects into there's a plan within a plan within a plan within a plan, and not everything was overly manipulated to where it's that movie where you see like this is exactly how they meant to do it. No, you saw how the plan had to change and shift based on people and the struggles and the experiences and being able to say, how do I take this shot? How am I able to get this going? And it was guards, fellow prisoners, and then also show your importance, show that skill that you have that no one else has, and then stuff will start rolling for you. So I really enjoyed that part.
Your humanity in it, he never once lost any of that. I think my absolute favorite part of the movie though is the part with the record player.
Oh yeah.
So what happens is he ends up, they find this record player in with a bunch of the library donations, and the guard that's kind of helping him unbox everything goes to the bathroom. So he locks himself in the guard's office and hooks the record player up to the PA system, and starts playing records over it. And he ends up in the hole for it. And like they beat him up for it. And but they're like, no, just unlock the door and nothing has to happen. Just unlock the door and you won't even be in trouble. And instead of unlocking the door, he turns the volume up.
Yeah.
I just love that little act of defiance. Like, nope, I need something.
Yeah.
That little act of defiance was just amazing to show. Like, no, he's still human, and he's got all these plans and stuff, but he does have breaking points.
Yeah.
And he is still very much in this for himself and for his buddies.
Yeah. Because it was a non-selfish moment, by setting up the PA, and with the song that he picked, like, this wasn't, hey, I'm gonna play something popular. This is, hey, you haven't heard this beauty. This is language that you mostly don't speak. It's Italian. It's a story that you don't know, but it is a really nice song. And that's where whenever I tell people, yes, I listen to all types of music, and they go, oh, you listen to classical and opera and whatnot? And I answer, yes, this is the reason why, because it pulls emotions out of you, and it's original. So that's what I really do enjoy, and being able to share that with his fellow prisoners. He took the punishment so that way they could have a little bit, and it kept telling the story of, oh, music, they can't take that away from you. It's inside your head. Buys him the harmonica, Then when they start doing the closing scenes and they show the library and people listening to music and hanging out, it's that rehabilitation side of it, of that's his legacy. So it was really good. I always do love the everyone's innocent part, because I always chuckle, and I was like, but he actually is innocent. And the interesting part about this movie is that they don't set it up that he didn't actually do it. He says he's innocent, but you go, well, everyone says they're innocent. Like, where are we at? And then well, in your heart, it could be true, or it should be true. It takes till 3/4 into the movie for them to be like, no, this is actually what happened. And then it throws in a whole new story, and you're like, yes, another one, So
and I love the one guy who's like, wait, you mean Andy's innocent? Like, wait, for real innocent?
Yeah. Like, that can't be true. Like, no, it is.
He's the first one.
Yeah.
He's the first one that ever was.
Yeah.
And then they're talking about it, and he and Andy and Red are in the library, and he's talking about it, and he goes, "Yeah, here's what I'm doing with the warden and all of the illegal stuff that the warden's got him doing." And he goes, "Yeah, I had to come to prison to become a crook." And I was like, that's just such a cool thing. He's just so down to earth with the situation. You know, by the end of it, when everything's finally getting explained, you realize, like, yeah, he was a realist, but he was not okay with where he was or what happened to him, and he was fighting every chance he got to get that fixed up.
Yeah, because he wasn't accepting it. He wasn't going. He was starting to become comfortable with it, but he wasn't accepting his situation. He knew that he was innocent, that he didn't deserve to be in for a crime that he did not commit. He still took some responsibility of, yes, I, wasn't there enough. This pushed, and you saw that human instinct of being able to take some responsibility, even in a situation that he did not do anything. He really didn't, but I like that. I love these older Morgan Freeman movies. Like, everyone who says they love Morgan Freeman, if you haven't watched this movie or you don't watch Morgan Freeman of the 90s, you don't really know why Morgan Freeman is Morgan Freeman. That's. I think
it's probably this one. You got to watch Driving Miss Daisy, and you have to watch Lean on Me.
Yeah.
To really understand why Morgan Freeman is the badass that he is, and why he's such a respected actor. You have to. These three movies will give you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll put those two on the list eventually too. Maybe for next semester.
Probably.
Yeah, we can get that in. One last thing, Rube, before we go, I just want to talk about the twist ending a little bit. I don't want to give anything away, but just how it works. So. Normally in a twist, people are used to like M. Night Shyamalan type of twists where everything's kind of sudden, and then there's flashbacks and things get explained kind of okay. This twist does a little bit of that in that it is a little bit of a flashback that explains it, but Red is narrating the entire time with information he's put together after the fact. So you don't have to try and figure anything out from the scenes because it's given to you very, very well. It's very well written. It's not always little things you missed, but they have some slightly different camera angles here that show you a couple extra things. And if you go back and watch it later, it's not ruined for you or for anyone else. I like the way they did this twist because they set it up so that it invites rewatching of the movie, or introducing other people who've never had the experience of the movie without ruining that anticipation, because I've done that before where people are watching a movie with me where I've never seen it and they get really tense when they know where the twist is coming, and it totally ruins it for me because I'm like, oh well, okay, now I guess I'm gonna watch for this now, but this one it's a slow build. Once you find out that Andy has escaped, that's the twist part of how he did it. That goes back, and you don't get that that audience tensing of kind of that ruining of the moment. It's just everything flows really well. And oh man, the first time I ever watched it, I went, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? And the second time I watched it, I went, yes, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is one that definitely invites rewatching.
Yeah, and it is a 2 hour and 20-minute movie. So that's where, again, movies of that time, it does take a lot to explain. Like, you don't want to give the cheap giveaways or make the story faster. Everything has a purpose in this movie, so it doesn't feel that long. I know in my time watching it, I did split up between two views. I watched the first hour and a half, and then I had stuff that I had to get done where I wanted to make sure I could pay attention to the movie, and it wasn't ruined. I had the ability to find it. There's enough sections within this movie where you can pause, take a break, and then come back, and you already know what's going on. And it's not like you have to have the world's best memory, like, oh, I gotta know this, and this. It's consistently keeping you up to date, and that's what I really like, because I wanted to watch it the whole way through. I just had plans that I had to go to, so I said, well, gotta watch it now. I'll take a break, come back, and watch the rest, and it was really good.
One thing I do want to mention for our viewers here that may not have seen it, if you're planning on watching it, there are some themes and some scenes in the movie that you should know about. There is one scene where a prison rape is implied. You don't see anything, but it's implied, and it shows how the prison guards deal with that, and and kind of the aftermath of that. There are people getting beaten for things that they do, so there's a little bit of violence there. Not a whole lot in the way of like actual like seeing like blood or guts or gore or anything like that. Like you don't see a lot of that at all, which is nice. But there are some heavy overtones of things that do go on in prisons. So if those kinds of things are skittish, you may want to skip this movie. But just to also kind of give you a background of what happens with it, all that stuff does get resolved within the movie, so it's not like it just leaves it hanging and nothing ever happens there. I did appreciate that they went through and made sure that those storylines were wrapped, and that everybody was, as an audience, you're feeling pretty good about where everything leaves off for those things. But just be warned, there are some rated R things in this movie that you will have to deal with if you watch it.
Mm-hmm. But again, it's rated R. It gives you that information, and it was an overall great experience to really see that and see this movie. And it's a good, since it was my first time watching it, I've always heard about it and heard how great it is. I just never really took that time to watch the classic because there's always so much new stuff, and that's what we're always focused on is what's new until it becomes vintage and hip. That's why I say hip, but that's because I am vintage. But I really enjoyed it. It was a good one, and I can't wait till the next movie. What's our next movie for next week?
So next week our movie is Now You See Me. It's another Morgan Freeman movie. This one also includes Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, and Mark Ruffalo. And this is about 4 magicians who band together to steal stuff. And it's actually really, really fun.
Really good.
If you like twists and you like being told, with flashbacks at the end of how it really got done, this is a movie for you. All right, guys. So thanks for joining us today. If you have any movies that you'd like to see us do, something that's on your favorites list, please let us know. You can get a hold of us. My email is darrellfedchak@clayton.edu. Spencer's is spenceremerson@clayton.edu. Or feel free to drop by the DRW offices in the SAC.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm Spencer. Go Lakers.